So a few need to knows. The politicians, they make the rules. They're the ones that are going to bring forth the change and ideas to be considered, and they are elected by the people. So whether we like it or not, our politicians have quite a bit of power and control over our lives, and they are the ones that set the rules that we have to follow. But what we're talking about today is how does the politician get there? How are they being elected into office? And that's typically through a political campaign. Most politicians are in place because they campaign for it. It's very rare that someone just kind of pops in. Usually that happens if like um, the person that is in the role passes away, right? Either,
Mhm.
naturally or unnaturally, and then you kind of get bumped up. But also that person, when they were running with the candidate that's no longer in office, you're also voting for like if something happens to this person, this is the person that's going to step in. When you vote for a candidate, you are also voting for their running mate.
So what we see right here is an actual dictionary definition of the word campaign. And when we hear the word campaign, most of us think elections, like yard signs, TV ad debates. But a campaign at its essence is really just a group of people working together to play with a plan to persuade others. And so it's just working in an organized way with a group of people to typically it's to achieve a political or social end.
Well said.
Thank you, darling. So every campaign involves certain things. It involves people, that's the volunteer and staff. It involves a plan, whether that be talking to voters, it could be phone calls, it could be door knocking, it could be social media, it could be hosting events. There's definitely the two things that are definitely always associated with a campaign or good campaigns anyway, is a strategy and a timeline. And then the third thing is a message. And so, what you want when you're doing a campaign, it's what you want people to believe or support. And the message is generally very simple and repeated over and over again. And a campaign always has a goal. It's either to win an election, pass a law, stop a policy, raise awareness. We have to think about it beyond just elections, right? Campaigns are not just for politicians. There's ballot measure campaigns, uh, school funding campaigns. There's an environmental campaign that is ongoing in Alaska. You could have something like a Save the Library campaign, or unions have campaigns. Often, Stand Up Alaska works on community issue campaigns. So you see, there can be all these different types of campaigns. And you'll see there, that was the campaign where I actually got my start, was on the Recall Dunleavy campaign. I was the statewide coordinator for the Recall Dunleavy campaign. And I think in that picture, you can see the campaign chair, Mita DeWitt. So that was a campaign that actually was the largest grassroots campaign ever in the state of Alaska. So campaigns can be about just about anything. So let's see. If you had to pick which one of these was a campaign, a group texting friends about dinner, a person complaining online, a team organizing neighbors to stop a new highway, or a group collecting signatures for a ballot initiative, what of those would be a campaign? Dun, dun, dun. Actually, it's two. Opposing the highway and collecting signatures are both samples of campaigns. So, opposing a highway, for example, um, there were proposed improvements to the Sterling Highway, particularly around the Cooper Landing bypass. And it's centered on concerns about environmental, cultural, local impacts with residents, tribal groups, and local officials challenging route choices and potential harm to salmon habitat, archaeological, or I can't say that word, archaeological sites,
Archaeological.
archaeological sites and community character. And if you have ever driven in that area that I'm talking about by Cooper Landing, you know that there is definitely a character to that community. Critics have also raised issues about property access, increased development pressure, and the long timeline and the rising cost of a project, which has been debated for decades during the National Environmental Policy Act review process. While state planners argue that the project will improve safety and reduce congestion, these objections have fueled and sustained debate for public comment on the highway's future. So, I mean, right now in that area, the local folks are discussing what is that going to look like if they change the highway in that area. But not only are the local folks discussing it, that's going to be a state issue because that is a state road, right? And so you're elevating it to the state level and knowing how much it's going to cost to repair that road and do any major infrastructure to that road, you are talking, and now you're talking about a federal issue because federal dollars are going to be used to improve that road if it is improved. So that's just one example. Like I said, another example is the Recall Dunleavy movement, and that was a statewide effort in actually, God, I can't believe it was 2019. And it was a large, multi-partisan effort for the opponents of our current governor, Mike Dunleavy, and folks were really unhappy about his budget cuts and a few other actions that he was taking. And we tried to get him removed from office. And it was two rounds of signature gathering. And on the first round, we needed 28,500 to start the process. We actually submitted 49,000 signatures within 5 weeks. It was well above the mark that we needed, almost double, and we were really close to recalling the governor. The only thing that stopped us was COVID, quite frankly.
Mhm.
So that's another example of a campaign. So you see that there was a timeline, there was a strategy, there were goals specifically for that. So we had people, we had a plan, we had a message, definitely. We had a goal, and those are all the things that make up a good campaign.
Really appreciate how succinct the messaging was for the Recall Dunleavy. It was very much, it's not that we don't like him. It's not like it wasn't personal. It was these choices that are being made are negatively impacting Alaskans. I remember one of the things, I didn't even live there, and I remember one of the things reading about and saying he did what? Cut the budget for snow plows,
Mhm.
for snow removal. And if you are an Alaskan resident, you know how important it is that the roads are clear, especially for kids standing under streetlights waiting for buses. When those roads aren't clear, when the sidewalks aren't clear, children are forced to stand in the street. In Alaska, in the winter, is dark. It's
It's
super
dangerous.
dark and it's dangerous, and the roads are slick as snot. And it is just a disaster waiting to happen. Another thing for those of you who are not from Alaska that might be tuning in, as silly as this sounds to you because you're not from Alaska, moose are a problem.
Hmm.
When the snow gets to a certain level, moose typically don't have a hard time getting through snow, but when it's deep, they will come into the roads, which are a little bit clearer. Kids are in those roads. Moose have terrible eyesight, fantastic hearing, and shitty tempers.
Yes, they
They don't
do.
like kids. They don't like children at all, at all. So you are setting up
They're not
kids to
that
be
crazy
hit by
about
cars.
people. Yeah.
No, but especially kids with snowballs. They really don't like that. So it was a calamity just waiting to happen. And so reading like you did what with the budget for snowplows? Like of all of the things to take money away from, that's what you chose. So the messaging was like he is endangering people, right? Like it's very clear messaging. And that was one of the reasons why that campaign was so successful because it wasn't a bunch of muddled, we're going to do this, and make all these false promises. It was this, these policies are dangerous to Alaskans and they need to be changed. And if you're not going to change them, then you need to go.
Right.